The week seemed to be all about political drama in the United Kingdom in the aftermath of the vote to leave the European Union. But it turned into human catastrophe when another attack hit France on Thursday. Welcome to the State of the Union. More than 80 people were killed after a gunman deliberately drove a truck into a crowd during Bastille Day celebrations in the French city of Nice. Witnesses said the driver zigzagged to kill as many people as possible.
Eyewitness accounts of the attack in Nice that claimed close to 80 lives are starting to emerge. This man says the truck mounted the curb, accelerating into the crowd as it ran over everyone in its way. There was no security and it took firefighters close to half an hour to arrive on the scene. The truck was there, on the promenade, and then they shot the driver. Shock and fear have spread through the city. One journalist said he heard screaming that he would never forget. The crowd were moving, crushed by all these people who were running. In a panic, we turned this way and that. We didn't understand what was happening. The driver apparently had implemented a structured, premeditated attack, shooting from the window as he mowed down bystanders. And from this, conclusions can be drawn as to the nature of the incident.
In the beginning of the week, the United Kingdom was heading towards a long leadership contest for then Prime Minister David Cameron's succession. But when one rival after the other dropped out of the competition or was voted out, former Home Secretary Theresa May took office in 10 Downing Street on Wednesday and started appointing her cabinet, meant to lead the UK out of the European Union.
He was one of the surprise appointments in UK Prime Minister Theresa May's new cabinet. Former Mayor of London and staunch Brexiteer Boris Johnson is the British Foreign Minister, giving rise to numerous suggestions that the gaffe-prone former journalist will alter the face of world diplomacy.
Clearly now we have a massive opportunity in this country to make a great success of our new relationship with Europe and with the world, and I'm very excited to be asked to play a part in that.
You've got a few people to apologise to, though, haven't you? President Obama, for example.
Well, as I say, the United States of America will be in the front of the queue. Thank you.
Negotiations to exit the EU will be out of his hands, though. Johnson succeeds Remain campaigner Philip Hammond, who's become Finance Minister. He was asked if there'd be an emergency budget.
Just to make clear, we'll do an autumn statement in the usual way, in the autumn, and we'll look carefully over the summer at the situation. I'm seeing the Governor of the Bank of England this morning, and we'll take stock of where we are.
Remain campaigner but Eurosceptic Theresa May is now tasked with leading the UK out of the European Union. As she builds her government, she'll have to strike a balance between Brexiteers and Remainers. Pro-Remain MP Amber Rudd takes May's former position as Home Secretary, but Leave campaigner David Davis has been appointed Brexit Secretary, an entirely new role some say waters down Johnson's job.
EU leaders were left rubbing their eyes in disbelief at Johnson's nomination. Only half-jokingly, the former Swedish Prime Minister took to Twitter. "I wish it was a joke, but I fear it isn't," he wrote, and added a picture of one of Johnson's stunts for the Leave camp during the referendum campaign. The French Foreign Minister Jean-Marc Ayrault said he didn't see Johnson as a reliable partner for the serious negotiations that are to come.
I'm not worried about Boris Johnson. You know very well what his style is. During the campaign, he lied a lot to the British people, and now it's he who has his back against the wall when it comes to defending his country, but also when it comes to a clear relationship with Europe.
However, the one man European partners will be treating with mainly is not Foreign Minister Boris Johnson, but David Davis, the new Secretary of State for exiting the European Union. The staunch Conservative is convinced the EU will end up giving the UK access to the single market without having to accept free movement of people, despite declaring the contrary now. Our Down of the Week takes us to a totally different story. José Manuel Barroso, the former president of the European Commission, accepted a job with Goldman Sachs as Brexit advisor for the American banking firm. A move that has been qualified as morally unacceptable and a boon to Eurosceptics. Despite Brexit and sceptic calls for less Europe, Belgian Vice Prime Minister Alexander De Croo thinks the challenges ahead require more European cooperation, be it terrorism, security or the economy. Effie Kutzer-Costa spoke with him about the campaign to the British referendum and other topics.
British citizens decided to leave the European Union. It's the first time that something like that is happening. What went wrong, and of course, what are the lessons learned?
We need to have more parallelism between what is being discussed here and what is being discussed in the home country. But I also think that the method of heads of state trying to come to an agreement on the direction that Europe should be going, that leads to the Europe of today. And the Europe of today is a crisis-solving mechanism. It's actually not that bad as a crisis-solving mechanism. Solving the Greek crisis has been done in an okay way. Dealing with the refugee crisis, I think that it was actually not that bad, and maybe solving this Brexit crisis will be another test. But Europe should be much more than that. Europe, in essence, at the birth, was not a crisis-solving mechanism. It was something that is supposed to give shape to European society. It is something that should have a view on what is the future of our communities, what is the future of the way we want to live.
The thing is that this discussion about more or less Europe is of course on top of the agenda right now, and we see a big gap between national parliaments, between member states, between also institutions here in Brussels. So what do you think? It's the time to have more of Brussels, more of European politics, or less?
If we look at security, if we look at the threat of terrorism, if you look at the threat of return foreign fighters and so on, does any of the national countries today believe that they can solve that on their own? No. The whole discussion today is always about how can we exchange more information, how can we work better together, how we can better intervene in our neighborhood just outside of Europe in order to better protect our citizens. If we think about our economy, the digital economy is an economy that needs growth, it needs size, you need a big common market. This is part of the success of the United States, is that it has a big internal market. While creating a bigger internal market is one of the best things to make sure that we continue creating jobs in that domain. So if you look at the big challenges today, in those big challenges, everyone knows that it's working together that is going to work and not just going each our own way. So Europe, I think, should be better at defining what are those top-of-mind topics and try to book successes in these topics, and maybe have politicians that only have a European agenda, that don't really have a national agenda, as it is too much the case today.
And let's have a look on what's on the European agenda for next week. On Monday, foreign ministers of the EU will gather in Brussels. They received their US counterpart John Kerry, but the new British foreign minister is likely to steal the show. And on Thursday, it's Belgium's National Day. After the Nice attack and previous attacks in Brussels in March, the celebrations are likely to be held under strictest security measures. Thanks for watching. Have a good week.